Good day, scholars. You actually are checking out the benchmark number 1 answer key, and I'm going to walk you through each of the questions that you had. You had 10 multiple choice. Here you can see all of the answers, and I've also linked a PDF there for you so you could click on it and download it as well if that's easier. But one thing I wanted to note is actually going through some of the evidence and explanation. So if you look at the first question on the guide asked you, which of the following best states the main idea of Off With Her Head? Remember, main idea is what is the text mostly about? In a lot of cases, it's the topic and what is the point of that topic, okay? Why is this writer seeking to communicate this information, okay? So remember for main idea, remember when we watched that BrainPop video, it was what was the topic, okay, and what is the point of the topic? What is it about, and what is the point of it? So when you look at the text, the answer is A, hairstyles are more than just fashion. And what I really want to point you to is the other sections of the text. So you have your introduction, and then one of your sections is titled Status Symbols, and the other one is a symbol of oppression. For status symbols, the text goes on to explain to us that hair came to represent status. Those who were rich had certain hairdos, and those who were poor had other hairdos, okay? It also goes on to say that some people even believed that their hair had spirits residing in them or living within them. So hair is more than fashion. It's also a symbol of where you are in your community. In the section, A Symbol of Oppression, it went on to show how those who were rich may have access to a wig or fake hair, as opposed to those who were poor who did not. It goes on to say, for example, George Washington wouldn't wear a wig because he didn't want people to think that he represented the old regime or the old ideals of wealthiness, okay? So that's how we know it's beyond fashion, is even the sections are titled Status Symbol and Symbol of Oppression. It didn't have sections titled All About Fashion or Hair is Only for Fashion, okay? It also, in the title has it, in the subtitle, it says Pigeon Dong Dye, Lice-Infested Wigs, Beheaded Queens, The History of Hair is Anything But Pretty. That suggests it's beyond fashion. It's beyond the way it looks, but has different meanings or more in-depth meaning, okay? For question number 2, it asks you, which sentence develops the main idea? So this is one of those questions that if you miss the first question, your likelihood of getting the second question right is probably almost none, okay, unlikely, because you had to recognize that hairstyles are more than just fashion as the answer. If you did, then you get to this point, it's answer choice B, where it says, whether long or short, curly or straight, our hair speaks volumes about us. That volume is actually a beautiful play on words. When we think of volume, you can think of volume as in having large, voluminous hair, but it also means to speak loudly, okay? So hair speaks loudly about us. It means it tells us more. It tells us either status or where we've come from. In the article, it mentioned, for example, President Obama would never have a Justin Bieber hair. We don't assume our president has fashionable hair, okay? We assume that they play a different role, all right? For question 3, it asks you in the sentence, what does bigwig mean? So what I want to say for this is any question that asks you about vocabulary, use that as an opportunity to plug and play. That means plug in your answer choices that you had and replay the sentence and ask yourself, does this sentence still make sense? So the answer for this was B, created. Let me actually plug it in. So here's the full line. The bigger the wig, the more expensive. In fact, the word bigwig was coined to describe the snobs who could afford them. Well, let me change that word coined to all of my options and see which one makes the best sense. The bigger the wig, the more expensive. In fact, the word bigwig was copied to describe. That sounds odd. In fact, the word bigwig was created to describe. That sounds pretty good. In fact, the word bigwig was bought to describe. That sounds odd. In fact, the word bigwig was approved to describe. Now that's a possible, but do we have to approve words to describe them? No. All right. For number 4, it asks what statement best describes the section status symbols. And in this section, this is where you ask yourself, what was the main idea of the section status symbols? I thought this one was actually kind of challenging, but it gets to the point of really looking at what the answer choices are. For A, okay, it says it proposes solutions to the problem of lice. Yes, this is in the section. It mentions lice, but it's not the whole point. The title of the section is status symbols, okay? Lice isn't going to connect with that. In B, the answer choice was it conveys information about ancient Egypt through the use of quotes. There's no quotes ever used in this section, okay? In D, it says it compares hairstyles of the past and present. There's no description of present in this section. So our best answer is C. It gives a broad overview of hairstyles through history. And here's my proof of that. It mentions Egypt, Greece, Rome, and Europe. And it starts in ancient Egypt and kind of goes towards modern day Europe, okay? For question 5, this again looks at vocabulary, but it asks you to then apply it. So it gives us this sentence: by the 19th century, a simple, natural look was the style of men and women of all classes, both in the U.S. and Europe. Classes in this meaning means groups, and these are groups by socioeconomic or by wealth, like the poor, the rich, the middle class, okay? A talks about I love the classes. That's not groups. B says invite the classes of 2004 and 2005. That's not using it the same way. But C and D both use classes as groups. But C's choice was there are many classes or groups of houseplants, and D's was in ancient Egypt, peasants were the lowest of the classes. C doesn't work because houseplants don't have anything to do with people, whereas the other one in D, peasants, has to do with people. Okay, for number 6, this again is a plug and play. The answer is D, wander. This also gets to the point that you have to know your answer choices. You needed to know what shuffle meant, what hurry meant, what mope meant, what wander meant. I honestly think out of these, I would go back to where this sentence appears. So in question 6, this sentence, gallivanting through town, it's actually in paragraph 3. Go back and reread that. Mope is answer choice C, and that one easily you can get rid of. But I was stuck with A and D. A is shuffle and D is wander. What I want you to take away from this is if someone's shuffling, they have kind of quick feet patterns, but they're still going slowly, right? Someone's shuffling down the hall. You can kind of hear them. They're making a lot of noise. They're trying to get there quickly, but their feet are going very slowly, okay? In wander, it's like you're taking your time. And in this case, they were describing the wealthy. They kind of gallivanting through the town. They're just taking their time. They don't have a care in the world, okay? For number 7, I feel like this one is a good one in terms of being able to do. It asks us, which of the following is an example of allegiance? And allegiance means where you have an alliance, meaning you are in partnership with, okay? Here's one where you just apply to it. You apply this example. For number 8, a coif is a type of hairdo. So what would go into your hair? Clearly a pair of shoes would not. Okay, you must have one big piece of hair, I guess. And then for 9, for this one, this is again a plug and play. You had to plug in a choice and decide which one sounds the best. Okay. And then for the last one is asking you, what's the author's purpose of this text? And you could have varied answers, but what I want you to get out of this is the author's purpose is truly to inform the reader about these previous hairstyles or the history of hair, okay? Notice that our author, Kristen Lewis, simply provides us facts and details. There's no opinion in here, okay? It's straight up information. It's using dates. It's using even a timeline to support us. This is factual or informational. All right, guys, I hope you had a great time listening. This was your study for the test. Remember to review anything in your VIP section, such as external text structure, the main idea, as well as author's purpose. Remember, your test has 32 multiple choice, a short response, as well as your annotations will be graded. All right, enjoy. Thanks.